Welcome back to Comic Wars. This is Season 2, Episode 13. This one is going to be a little interesting. We have serial killer versus serial killer here. We have Michael Myers, the legendary serial killer, one of the very first we've got to see on film, facing off against Ghostface. And we're not just talking about any Ghostface, we're not looking at the newest one, there's a reason being, because really we're only looking at what can they do. And the greatest feats so far that have been pulled off have actually been by the very first Ghostfaces. And when I say this, that these were the first and these were the best, you got to look at what these characters accomplished. You had two characters that were pretty much athletic. One that actually was athletic, and the other one that was semi-athletic. The other ones that have always been not as athletic. And their feats weren't even nearly close to as good as some of these. Now, granted, the newest Ghostface did have some pretty interesting feats, especially defeating some of these characters that the very first Ghostface couldn't beat. But, that being said, we're going to be looking at the Billy Loomis and Stu Ghostfaces going against the Halloween, the Green's timeline of Halloween. We're going to be looking at that Michael Myers. So this one is a little more interesting. This is an older Michael. This is one where we're not going to be comparing different Michaels against different characters. No. This one we're just going to pick the newest one because it's the newest one. Simply put. Now this one didn't even beat Jason. It couldn't beat him consistently all the way through. But this is once again the newest one. This is the only reason I'm bringing this one up. So this is technically the most powerful, but it can also be the least powerful. It just really depends when it comes down to it. So without further ado, let's get into the overview. So as usual, if we had a guest, this is where we'd include intros from them. This is where we get in a little witty banter and get their guess. Who would win? This is also where it's a great time for you guys to also chime in the chat and or in the comment section down below. Make sure to also hit like. That definitely helps out a lot. And if you guys haven't subscribed already, make sure to do so as well. And if you are subscribed, make sure to hit that bell notification because if you don't hit it, you never know if I'm actually going to pop up. After that, then we get into the background details. This is where we start going over who the character is, how old they are, their height, their weight, their occupation, where their area of operation is, their personality, and or little bits of information about them. Maybe some things you didn't know. There's some things I actually found out about some of these characters from this season and last that I didn't know. And these are characters I was totally huge fan of. Didn't know these things. Absolutely nuts. Alright. After that, then we get into the feats. This is where we start breaking down the nitty-gritty. This is where we start looking at their greatest feats of strength, durability, speed and agility, ingenuity, weapons, gadgets, powers, things like that. That's where we're going to break it all down, what they're bringing to this fight. After that, then we begin into the data analysis. Now, more often than not, we do combine this. The reason this happens is because some of these feats, they have to be described. And I do mean in great detail, too. I don't just mean just a little bit of description here. This isn't Death Battle. This is similar, but it's not the same thing. Death Battle likes to break it down all at the same time. And then at the very end, they really start breaking things down. Sometimes they do break it down, midway. I like to have everything broken down pretty much just right here in one spot. After that, then we get into the character pros and cons. This is where we start more or less weighing the characters up against each other. Not necessarily saying who wins. We're just going to look at where their pros and cons are against each other. Sometimes we don't even have to go over this. We just get into the scenario because we know it's going to come down to scenario base. Sometimes it's a total just smash. And just one side is just completely just overwhelming against the other. So sometimes this is actually very, very helpful because then we can start up with our next part, which is the guest analysis. What they think. Are they going to change their guess? And then, of course, what does this data mean to them? This is also a great time for you guys in the chat. If you guys decide you guys want to change your answer, you guys want to just have further conversation about these characters, let's do it. If not, once again, just leave it down in the comment section down below, and we'll get back to you. And then after that, of course, we get into the outcome. So we start looking at who wins and why. And now this season, we've had a lot of these ones where it's very, very scenario-based. We also know at the very end of last season, there was a ton of scenario-based winners. They could only win based on certain scenarios because other than that, they were basically they were completely equal with other character, or they were just more or less an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. So this does occur. But after that, then of course we get into the preview, so you guys can see the next episode as well. All right, well, let's get into our first combatant. And this is Michael Myers. He is the creation of John Carpenter. Like I said, one of the very, very first serial killers on film. His real name is Michael Audrey Myers. We're looking at the David Green's timeline. So this one is much older. He's 65 years old. He's 5'10" tall. And he weighs approximately 165 pounds. Now keep in mind, this is a character that's based on Nick Castle. Now, this is Nick Castle's height and weight in the movies. So this is where we're going to come from on this. As for his occupation, he's a serial killer, and he's operating in Haddonfield, Illinois. He has gone to California, but this is not this timeline that Michael's actually gone to California. That was actually the H2O timeline. But he operates in Haddonfield, sometimes a little bit outside of it, but he doesn't go too far out. As for his personality, well, he's emotionless, he's extremely intelligent, and incredibly devious. This is a guy that probably one of the smartest killers we've actually had on here. Freddy Krueger's debatably more intelligent. It just depends on if we're looking at inside the dream world or outside. Then you can start seeing his deviousness in play. When he's in the dream world, he's just going to be playful. Outside of it, not so much. But we're not looking at Freddy because, well, Freddy's already lost. So let's take a look at Michael. What is he doing? You know, we know he's extremely intelligent because we know he's figured out all sorts of different things, including how to drive just from watching somebody. And we're talking older cars. We're talking stick shifts. For some of us out there, this is kind of a difficult feat, me included. So, but just enough about that, and enough about wrecking myself on that one. Terrible. But this is by far the smallest of the different iterations of Myers. I mean, this is tiny. Usually Michael Myers is anywhere in the 6 foot, I think he's 6'5", all the way up to about 7 feet tall. So he's a big boy, and this is the smallest one. But is he really the worst one? Oh, absolutely not. We know that for a fact. We got to see that through Halloween Kills, Halloween, and of course Halloween Ends. Halloween Ends is where this is probably the least brutal Michael, but Halloween Kills is by far one of the most brutal. But as for his strength, well, he's low tier superhuman level. He's single-handedly unearthed and moved Judith Myers' tombstone, which is anywhere between 100 and 1,000 pounds. He moved this by hand, mind you. Now we know that it was a bigger tombstone, so it's probably closer to about the 1,000 pounds. So we're looking at probably, if we're really given a closer estimate, is anywhere probably between 500 to 1,000 pounds. And he effortlessly snapped Cameron's neck, which takes anywhere between 1,000 and 1,250 pounds of force. Takes quite a bit. And he just did this 1 arm. Just bam, done deal. As for his durability, well, he's wearing clothing. But he has an extreme level of pain tolerance, bordering on immunity. He survived being shot at close range in the back, getting 3 of his fingers blown off by a shotgun, Tank being stabbed several times in the stomach by Allison, Tank being shot, beaten, and stabbed by multiple attackers. This was multiple shots fired into him. And he's also gotten a resistance to extreme heat. He survived being inside the extreme heat of the house. It was on fire that was meant to trap him there. Absolutely just blew it away. Just like, nope, okay, I'm going to get out. As for his speed and agility, well, we know that he's at least Olympic athlete levels. And we know this because we see that he gets around very, very quickly in very short amounts of time. We know this because you can start especially with the David Gordon Green timeline, pay attention to the clocks. When you see a clock, when you see him popping up and you see a clock, you see very, very short periods of time where he's moving around. And this was done on purpose. This shows when he's off screen, this guy he's booking it. Now we know he's a fast walker as is, like incredibly fast, but when it comes down to it, end of the day, is he running off screen? We know for sure he is. Also, not to mention, when it came down to it, there's a little bit of an issue when it comes down to his speed, as he's so stealthy apparently. They didn't have any really good way to explain this, but those sensors, which is triggered by movement, he was able to trick that. And actually, during the when it would go off, he was moving a lot faster. He was getting real close, and when it was on, he was just absolutely still. So this is a tricky one when looking at that, but essentially he's moving incredibly quick, and we know that for a fact. On top of that, he's also able to disarm Allison with a shotgun before she could even react to him. This is a teenage girl that she's Laurie Strode's granddaughter, and she was absolute beast in the movie. Not entirely like at the beginning, but as she progressed through the movies, she got to be more and more of a beast. So, as for his combat capabilities, well, we know he's got at least weapon mastery of knives, because he perfectly parries firefighters, including redirecting a saw into one of them and swiftly took out an entire mob after they knocked him down. This is including stabbing him in the neck or right on the side, blowing, of course, he had his fingers blown off, same night, mind you, shot multiple times, stabbed, beaten with bats and other blunt objects. I mean, this guy just got beaten to all heck, and he got right back up and slaughtered everybody. As for his ingenuity, well, he plans far ahead and he stalks his opponents to study him. Now, this is almost always while undetected. The only exclusion is going to be if there was the final girl there. That's the only time we've seen this, is actually when he was undetected. Or only time he's detected is when the final girl sees him. That's it. Other than that, he goes undetected. So, what else is he bringing to this? Well, he has a weapon, of course, which is his kitchen knife. Okay, so you can see that in his hand. But he also comes equipped with some powers. We know for a fact that David Gordon Green, tried to say, no, this is a very grounded Michael. By the end of it, you got to see, no, he was not grounded by any means. He has a healing factor. I put this here, it was on accident, the second one was, but really, let's emphasize it. He's got a healing factor. The more he kills and instills fear, the more he recovers. You watch the movie in Halloween Ends, you get to see this. On top of that, you can also see part of it toward the end after he kills the mob. Quickly recovers from all the damage he'd received. This is including getting hit in the face with a bag of bricks and rocks. Repeatedly. This is enough to kill somebody. And he just tanked it, no problem. On top of that, he's also got an empowerment ability. The more he kills and instills fear, the stronger he becomes. Remember, you have to remember here, Ghostface is two guys. And they do feel fear. Michael could do this. Not to mention, they know about Michael. They know of his other timeline's tactics. Or at least his beginnings. So, they're going to know about this. And this is why this is an interesting fight, because they know of his tactics. Alright? As for his weakness, well, just pull his mask off. He will stop attacking until it's back on. They take his mask off. This could go very, very one-sided very quickly, except he will swing still. We know that he still swings when people get close and all this. So, but that's what we got from Michael. But what about his opponent? Or opponents, rather. Ghostface. He was created by Kevin Williamson. Of course, Wes Craven directed the movie and got him on screen. But the real names of these two are Billy Loomis and Stu Macher. Both are 18 years old. Billy is 5 foot 10 inches tall, while Stu is 6 foot 3 inches tall. Billy weighs 152 pounds, while Stu weighs 174. Both are high school students and serial killers, and they operate out of Woodsboro, California. Their personalities. This is where things are a little bit different. Billy is very vengeful, psychotic, and intelligent. While Stu is eccentric, psychotic, and he's not very intelligent at all. But both are psychotic. These guys are going to they're going to go full bore. And a little bit of information about them. Well, the duo likes the thrill of the chase and often make attempts to instill fear in their opponents, with one of their primary methods being horror trivia via unknown phone calls. this isn't something we would probably see in a death battle in that type of a scenario. So we're just gonna throw that out there. Yes, they'd probably call Michael. Michael would pick up the phone after he'd killed one of their victims, which means he comes in empowered. We're not going to do that because that means he comes in empowered. Now, would Michael have a phone in his house? No, because his house is abandoned. So, end of the day, Michael's not going to go and deal with this. Not to mention they know his tactics. So that's not going to be a thing they're going to do. They're going to know, don't mess with this guy. But at the same time, if they know they're there together, they're both stealth killers. However, this is in the same format. If they're who would win in a fight, they would know about each other. That's essentially how this would work out. They would know about each other. As for the strength, well, let's look at Billy first. He's got average human level strength. His costume, well, that's all he's got for durability, but he has traded knife stabs with Stu Mocker and continued to chase and mock Sidney Prescott while appearing to be unaffected by the wound. He also has moderate pain tolerance as well. As for speed and agility, for both of them, it's average. They're just average guys. Their combat capabilities, they don't have any formal training. As for ingenuity, we know that Billy Loomis plans and coordinates attacks, while Stu follows Billy's orders, and both of them rely heavily on stealth to execute attacks. But what does Stu come with? Well, he's definitely athletic level. His durability, well, costume, of course, he knows what he's got, but he's traded knife stabs with Billy. I should have changed that in there too. And continued to chase and mock Sidney Prescott while appearing to be unaffected. They both did this for a short while, but he's got a moderate pain tolerance as well. There's really nothing different too much except when it comes down to their strength. That's really it. That, of course, and their ingenuity. One's not exactly intelligent, the other one is. One's stronger, while the other one is not. So, and what they come with is they each come with a Buck 120 hunting knife and a Beretta 92 FS handgun. They only have one magazine, mind you. So, but we know this is going to be an interesting fight. It's 2 versus 1. They both have handguns and they both have knives. They're going to be able to go trade blows with Michael potentially. So, what do you guys think? Who takes this? We don't even have to go over data analysis because honestly, it's end of the day, it's going to be a very interesting fight here. But it's the numbers, we're not going to need them for this. You'll see why. After going over this, it's pretty self-explanatory how this is going to go down. So, all right. So, without further ado, let's hop right on in. I think it's supposed to say episode 13. Maybe it's episode 12? I don't know. Something along those lines. But, so basically how this works out. When it comes down to their intelligence, and their personality, height, and all this kind of stuff, there's going to be 2 versus 1. Okay? That's how that breaks down. 2 versus 1. But who's really going to be pulling ahead on this? Well, it's Michael. Michael easily surpasses Billy on intelligence. When it comes down to size and all this kind of stuff, that goes down to Michael. Michael's going to be up there with Stu, but Michael's far superior in strength, and the reach is going to be about the same. So this is going to be reliant. They would be reliant on a pincer attack or attacking both at the same time. Michael is going to expect this. He's going to expect them to shoot him. He's going to expect them to get in close, and then he's going to go in for the kills. Now we know that they're not going to know about him being able to do this because they've never seen him in a group fight. Therefore, him being like that in a group setting, they're not going to know it, end of the day. So when it comes down to it, really, there's some edge on both sides, but really when it comes down to it, Michael pulls a little bit farther ahead. And it's not a big leap, because it comes down to Michael's smarter than them. He needs to go and take the hits, unfortunately. He's not going to be able to sneak up on them very easily, but we know that he's going to be able to outmaneuver them. Comes to strength, Michael completely outclasses both of them. They just completely get shot down. That's pretty self-explanatory. He's low tier superhuman. Their best is athletic level. Athletic and below, or like average, human male. Yeah, that doesn't add up to superhuman, so doesn't go there. When it comes to durability, well, that's a given. Michael easily outclasses him. Speed and agility. Yeah, Michael outclasses them. But we know he's an Olympic level athlete, so he's not to the point where he's going to like, but we know that's off screen. He's a fast walker, and that's how we'd basically see it. So he's not going to be booking it. So we're going to just give him he doesn't completely outclass them because we're not looking off screen. It's only on screen we see him where he moves at his fastest. As for for their ingenuity, oh, Michael is far more ingenious. Let me break this down real quick. So we're not going to allow them to be able to stalk, right? We can't. But he also plans far ahead. He knows about his opponents, doesn't know everything about them. Doesn't have any time to really plan for them, per se, but he plans on the go. We've seen that he's been able to plan against people that have planned for him for years. He was able to outmaneuver Laurie Strode, who her entire home in the David Green timeline, after the very first Halloween in the 1970s, she spent 40 years literally devising a whole home, a whole trap just for Michael. Every way to trap him in any given room and be able to ignite, and he would not be able to leave. He got into the house. He found areas where she wouldn't know where he was at. He'd blend in. He's able to outmaneuver her that way. He was able to figure out where the hidden room was, the little safe room was. He was able to figure all this stuff out. These guys, they get tricked pretty easily. When it comes down to ingenuity, Michael is far, far more intelligent. When it comes to weapons, that's actually, unfortunately, this has to go completely to them. It's not a huge lead over weapons, and they don't have any powers, but Michael does take that. So this is going to be kind of like weapons and power. They kind of cancel each other out here. So we're going to go and cross those off because that's really where this comes down to. They're going to go in there, even with their ranged, we know this isn't going to really